Drake Maye goes number 3 overall to the New England Patriots, Michael, but there is belief and thought process, right, that he doesn't have to go in right away. He needs time to develop and could sit behind Jacoby Brissett this year. So what does Maye need to do to reach that potential, Michael?
The appointments are lined up.
You waiting for somebody in there?
Got an appointment.
And it's not about what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
It's not personal. It's strictly business. It's time you and me had a private talk, Winger. Step into my office.
It's Step Into My Office with Michael Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi, we'll see you now.
All right, Michael. Let's talk Kirk Cousins off the ledge here because 6 weeks ago, he signed a deal with the Atlanta Falcons for 4 years, $100 million guaranteed in the first 3. Yet, instead of helping him out, giving him a little defensive support, Atlanta says, no, we are going to take Michael Penix Jr. at number 8 overall. Raheem Morris, their head coach, said Kirk does not have to look over his shoulder every time he throws a bad pass. But we know when he throws a bad pass, the fans are going to be coming out and screaming Michael Penix Jr. What does Cousins need to do to secure his QB1 spot, Michael? And how would you advise him given this situation?
Well, I think, Kurt, you're in a really tough spot because what you want to do, and I'm sure what you had planned to do, was try to develop the team around your characteristics, right? You want your personality within the team. And I think ultimately this becomes now everybody becomes a general manager. Everybody evaluates practice. Who's better? Who does this? You know, they'll say it'll raise the competition level and they'll get the best out of you. I'm not sure that's the case because the connectivity between you and the team has to have no doubt, right? The second string quarterback is always the least talented quarterback. It's always pretty clear. In this case, it may not be clear because this kid can throw the football. So what I think you have to do is balance yourself really easily. Difficulty. You've got to show support to the young kid because if you try to alienate him, the rest of the team's not going to buy into you. They're going to see it. And then you also have to command the team. And you and Raheem have to sit in a room and really go over it and understand that because there should be some kind of understanding now that he is part of the team and how do you embrace it? Because what's going to happen in scout team is he's going to look really good because he's going to look at cards. You throw the ball here, you throw the ball there. There's no pass rush, right? And the players are going to see this and they're going to say, wow, this kid's really good. So Raheem's got to do a really good job of reinforcing everything to you, and so does Zach Robinson. But you've got to be upfront and honest with everybody. You got to let them know how you feel.
I don't like to say I feel bad for guys that are making the kind of money that Kirk Cousins is, but I feel bad for him in this situation. I feel bad for Michael Penix Jr. in this situation, too, because he might be, if not the most, one of the most NFL-ready quarterbacks of this draft class. And now we hear that he could be sitting for 4 or 5 years if things go well with Kirk. So just very interesting situation. Another quarterback off the board early. Drake Maye goes number 3 overall to the New England Patriots, Michael, but there is belief and thought process, right, that he doesn't have to go in right away. He needs time to develop and could sit behind Jacoby Brissett this year. Take a listen to Gerard Mayo after the selection.
I don't think many rookies are ready to just jump in and play. And look, at the end of the day, our philosophy is the best players will play. We're not sitting here saying that Drake is our starting quarterback. I think he understands that. He understands the things that he has to get better at. And, with coaching and, once again, the hard work and the coaches that we have, the support system from ownership, I think he has a chance to go out there and really play at a high level. You can talk about potential all you want to. Until you reach it, it really doesn't matter.
That's what my dad always says. Potential doesn't mean blank yet, right? Like, it doesn't mean anything. So what does Maye need to do to reach that potential, Michael?
Well, he needs to go back and start all over. Just go in there with an open mind and try to learn how to play the position the way they want him to play it. And really spend a lot of time on his fundamentals and his footwork. Like, he's got to really become a technically sound player and not just think he can do it with his athleticism. And don't be in a rush. Not saying don't compete, but just don't be in a rush. Take everything in. Learn from as much as you can. Take mental reps as much as physical reps because you're going to need it. You're going to need it badly. And go in there, keep your mouth shut, head down, and just do what they tell you to do and work twice as hard at it. And then after 6 months, we're going to see where this goes. Think of yourself as you're on this giant weight loss program. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters where we're going to be in 3 months, right? And so that's going to be the key. You've got to show improvement to yourself every 3 months. I think that's got to be what your goal is. Your goal isn't who's the starter. Your goal is how do I improve?
Football version of a no-carb diet for Drake Maye. Got to keep it up. Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. How about Bo Nix here, Michael? Because despite most mocks having Bo Nix as a fringe first rounder, he ends up going number 12 overall to the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton calling him super intelligent and pushed against the assumptions that Denver could have drafted him later. Compared it to the Chiefs situation, taking Patrick Mahomes when they did. Said, oh yeah, people were mad at them, said you could have gotten him later. No, you couldn't. How can Nix live up to that number 12 draft ranking?
Just stop thinking about it, because it only matters how you play, not where you get picked. You can't make anybody happy. Look at Brock Purdy. 7th pick, last player picked to the draft. He can't make people happy. People still doubt him. So don't worry about what other people think. The only person you really care about is the reason you're in Denver is because what Sean Payton thought. That's the only guy you got to make happy. You got to make him happy, and you got to do what he tells you to do. Everybody else is just block out the noise. Don't even listen to it. And if you win games, you probably won't get any credit because people have their minds made up about you. So they're going to write that it's the rest of the team that did it, like they did with Brock Purdy. You got to take the Brock Purdy approach. Deal with your teammates, connect with them, and just listen to your head coach and block out all the noise. The people that don't know are the ones you can't let affect you.
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, steps into your office, Michael, this offseason. They added Sam Darnold on a 1-year, $10 million contract, and then in the draft traded up to 10 to grab J.J. McCarthy. GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah told reporters that Minnesota would not rush McCarthy's development. So if you are Kevin O'Connell, what should he be looking for and from in J.J. McCarthy if he plans on giving him the reins of the offense at some point?
Well, if he plans on getting him the reins, he's got to give him everything. Like, you can't have two offenses. You can't have the Sam Darnold offense, and you can't have the J.J. McCarthy. You got to see if he can handle it. Volume is what gets most quarterbacks, right? Volume. How much volume you get put on your plate to process and deal with. This is what Sean Payton was talking about when he was talking about Nix's ability intellectually. It's the volume. How much volume, how much of the offense can you handle? Well, if you want to win games and Darnold can handle a lot of it, McCarthy's going to have to handle as much of it as he can. And don't worry about if he makes mistakes. Like, that's the one thing I would tell every one of these young quarterbacks. Make as many mistakes in practice as you possibly can because they call it practice. Just don't make 2 mistakes in a row. Just don't make the same mistake over and over again. That's when you lose your credibility. That's when you lose your support system. Learn from your mistakes and move forward. And you have no timetable, JJ. All you have to do is learn what to do and then do it when you figure it out. And take your time because they've got Darnold there to protect you. And don't try to become a hero overnight.
As much as I talked about J.J. McCarthy throughout this draft process and how I wasn't a believer, it's not that I'm not a believer in J.J. McCarthy. It's that I wasn't a believer in him being a top 5 pick. I think he's in a great situation in Minnesota. Have that time to learn and develop a little bit and see what he becomes. I'm excited for him with the Vikings. Let's go to Phoenix, though, Michael, where the Suns be struggling after getting swept from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Their GM, James Jones, is in the office after adding Bradley Beal to a team that already included Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. They are out. What's next for the Suns? What would you direct James Jones on for his path in order for them to contend with this big 3?
I really like James and have great respect for him. And I think with James, what you have to do is be honest with yourself. Can you make another run with this team? What was wrong with this team that you could not beat Minnesota? And you know that guy in Minnesota who's becoming the second coming of Mr. Jordan is not going anywhere. So how are we going to get out of the West if we can't beat them? And I think you got to be really honest. And then once you're honest with yourself, how do you fix the problem? You can't get away from Beal's deal. Everybody told you, you got to get Beal, you got to get Beal. You listened to it, and it didn't work. Now you got to do what you think will work. And does that mean tear it down? Does that mean trade assets? You can't trade Durant. You're not going to be able to trade Beal. You don't want to trade Booker. I don't know how you solve the problems. You don't have any draft picks. So you got to sit down and say to yourself, either we sell off these picks, we sell off Durant, and we sell off Beal, and we'll eat the money to get picks and just go into the tank, or how do we piece it together? Your owner's not going to want to try to piece it together. He wants to win. But you and I both know old players don't get young. Old players don't get better.
Yeah. Father Time's undefeated, as they say, unless you're Tom Brady. I said it once earlier, and I'll say it again, Michael. When Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal were on the floor together in this series, they were minus 51,
Wow.
the worst of any three players on any team in the playoffs here so far.